I just stayed silent until I proved everything. My name is Ethan Kane. I live in Colorado Springs, and I've been married to my wife, Hannah, for 7 years. Telling this story isn't easy, because for most of the time, I wasn't even sure enough to put into words. But once you start feeling things, even without hard evidence, the shadow of truth falls over you. Life doesn't always change all at once. Sometimes it begins quietly, with small cracks, and before you know it, those cracks bring the whole wall down. In the early years of our marriage, Hannah and I would wake up to each other's breath. We drank our morning coffee together. We got ready side by side. We texted, we made plans, we surprised each other on weekends. But something changed in the past year. At first, I chalked it up to being busy. Work stress, I said. It'll pass in time. But it didn't. I didn't even mind when Hannah started coming home late at night. She said it was for a new project, new people, new meetings, new business dinners. But oftentimes it's not what people say, it's how they say it. Hannah started avoiding my gaze when she spoke. She flinched when I touched her. It felt like she was there, but not with me. One Friday night, I was home. It was raining. Hannah was late again. I had set a table for 2. At 10:17 p.m., I got a text. I couldn't get out of the office. You've probably already started. But I hadn't. I put my fork down and sat in the dim light of the living room. Staring at the ceiling, a deep silence was born inside me. But I said nothing. I just watched. I observed. Because at work I'd learned suspicion. But in my personal life, I chose silence. Hannah's change went beyond lateness. She stopped leaving her phone face up. She changed her passcode. It was like she wanted to lock everything, not just to keep someone out, but to hide from someone. One morning, I saw a notification pop up as I walked into the bathroom. I was awake. The screen showed someone saved as W with a red heart emoji next to it. But I didn't touch it, because sometimes you want the truth to reveal itself without messing with it. That weekend, I decided to clean out the storage room at the back of the house. That was the excuse, but really, I was reviewing archive boxes, our marriage documents, shared bank statements, Hannah's contracts. Everything looked normal. But you notice irregularity in behavior, not in paperwork. The next day, when Hannah was in the bathroom, I took her phone. The screen was unlocked again. I wiped it clean, but didn't scroll through it. I just held it. Because it reminded me. Before letting something go, you like to touch it one last time. At that moment, I felt the phone didn't belong to me anymore. I quietly walked to my desk, powered on my laptop, and used some tools from my line of work to monitor the traffic on our home network. It was technical for most. But for me, seeing when and where Hannah connected was an extension of my instincts. Every night at 12:30 a.m., the same device connected from the same IP address, Phoenix. Phoenix? What was she doing there? We didn't know anyone there. If it was work, why hide it from me? Still, I kept quiet. Some wars are fought quietly, and this was my war. One night, Hannah turned to me and said, "Ethan, you've been so quiet lately." I smiled. Maybe I'm just listening more closely. We locked eyes. But then she looked away again. That moment, I understood for the first time. When she looked at me, it wasn't me she saw. Sometimes, someone turning away is the quietest confession of hiding something. Hannah rarely turned away at first, but I had memorized her back every night. Not her face, not her voice, just her back. And that back was no longer mine. That week, I decided I wouldn't question her anymore. I didn't need her answers because some truths hide in silence, and I had learned to read that silence. I retrieved an old security camera from the basement. It was a model I'd bought 2 years earlier, planning to install it in the backyard, but never set it up. I installed my own software on it, hid its network connection, and placed it on the bookshelf opposite Hannah's office desk, inside an ordinary gray decorative box. Only the lens poked out. It recorded both video and audio. The first night, nothing happened. The second night, Hannah did a video call. She wore headphones so I couldn't hear the other party. But her eyes, they said a lot. The way she smiled at the screen, smiled in a moment that didn't feel like it belonged to me. I recognized a light in her eyes she hadn't shown me in years. It was unfamiliar, yet I didn't feel anger. I felt curiosity. Who is this guy? How long has he been in her life? Since when have I been a stranger? But instead of asking myself those questions, I started noting them. I added a hidden VPN to the home network. I couldn't monitor her phone traffic then, but I could see which URLs she was visiting through our router. Over the past 3 weeks, a specific site kept showing up. westhavenmed.org/patients/messages. That's odd. It's a hospital system. Hannah isn't sick. She has no medical history. I know that. I opened it. No public access. You had to log in with email and password. I knew she still used some old passwords from the early days of our marriage, the combo she created based on my birthday, Han 0507+. On the second try, I got in. I clicked messages. The first message I read made my hand tremble. Tuesday night was wonderful, but we need to be more careful. He might start suspecting. As usual, room 14 is ready for you. W. Room 14. Wonderful. Suspecting. I swallowed hard, took a deep breath. This wasn't direct proof, but it was loaded. W again, the W from the phone. Maybe this isn't a coincidence. But still, I didn't let myself think, Hannah's cheating on me. Not yet. I wasn't ready to go there, because once you say that, nothing is the same. And I still held on to a sliver of hope. Maybe it had an explanation. Maybe she was just good at lying. The next day, when Hannah came home, I was sitting in the living room. I closed my laptop and looked at her. Why do you keep logging into that hospital site? I asked. It was unexpected. Her eyes widened briefly, but then she recovered fast. An old friend works there, a nurse. I was contacting her. She swallowed. What's wrong? I said. It seemed strange. She shrugged. That's it? Yeah, that's it. That night we watched TV together, but my mind was elsewhere, because the war had begun, and the weapon of this war was every word I didn't say. That night, she went to bed early, saying she was tired. I lingered in the living room late, but not to linger. Another world lay behind that open screen. Room 14. Those 3 words echoed in my head. You forget thousands of words, but 3 words stick for years. I Googled Room 14, Colorado Springs. Hundreds of results, mostly irrelevant. Buildings, bus routes, apartment numbers, half was noise. But one result was hauntingly familiar. Red Lantern Motel, Room 14. It's a shabby motel on the outskirts by the highway, often rented by the hour. The place mentioned in the message. I'd never heard Hannah mention it, but I opened the site and saw the photos. Room 14. Red sheets, old TV, thick curtains. Disgusting. Why would Hannah be there? A crack formed in that wall inside me. The next day, she said she'd have a long day at work. "I'll be late," she told me. I just nodded. After she left, I followed her, quietly. My detective instincts kicked in, but this time it wasn't about work. I tracked her all the way outside the city. She slowed down, turned right, into the dusty parking lot of the Red Lantern Motel. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. It felt like all my blood was coursing through my hands. I parked at a distance in another lot, and I just watched. Hannah got out wearing a red dress. Her hair was styled. She carried a small purse. She didn't even check the room number. She headed straight for 14. There was no doorbell. She knocked twice. A man opened, wearing a black tee, tall. I couldn't see his face clearly, but his smile stole the smile that should have been Hannah's. They went inside. The door closed. That moment, everything inside me died. I went home. At 11:40 p.m. that night, Hannah texted, "I'm so worn out today. Want to go out for breakfast tomorrow?" It was like she was inviting me to her silence, not to breakfast. That night, I went back to the motel website. I looked for vulnerabilities. The system was simple. The camera network was on a separate segment, but an old model. After 2 hours, I got access to the desk's backup video logs. No cameras inside the room, but the parking lot, the entrance and exits were all recorded. I downloaded the last 3 weeks. I started tracking the names on the room 14 reservations. What shocked me? Hannah hadn't been there just once. 6 different dates, always with the same car and the same man, and every time the reservation used a different name, but all from the same IP address, the same one Hannah used from home. She'd made those reservations, without fear, without hiding, like she had permission. At that moment, the truth hit me like a slap. I already knew she didn't love me anymore, but now I had proof. Cold, digital, undeniable facts. Still, I didn't confront her, because by then my only goal wasn't to fight or demand answers. I just wanted to document everything and carry out my plan all the way. Betrayal has no taste, but you memorize its voice. You can smell it in a person's inflection on the phone, in how their footsteps sound when they walk at home, even in how they stir tea for a second time. Betrayal is silent, but it screams inside. For me, this had become a project, not a feeling. The feeling was gone, replaced by method. The next morning, after Hannah left, I planted a small device on her work computer. It looked like a USB stick, but it automatically recorded audio. It started only when voices were detected. Background noise wasn't television, it was real conversation. I also took care of her phone. I had old backup software for remote access. Once her phone connected to our Wi-Fi, it triggered automatic backups. I now had her phone's location history, deleted messages, photo gallery, voice memos flowing to me, and she didn't know a thing. My first big breakthrough came from the backup of a deleted voice message. "Hey, is Ethan out of town this week? Hope he's not planning any more surprises. Because I miss you, Han. Let me know. William." William. The W. Another piece fell into place. Motel footage, the recordings, fake signatures, Reese's audio. But I still remained silent. Because now my aim wasn't to catch her in the act. My aim was to build a truth so clear, so strong, that she couldn't deny it, face to face. 1 week later, Hannah came home uneasy, carrying some papers. She opened the conversation with, "Ethan, how have you been lately?" That kind of line is always a test. "What do you know? How much do you feel?" I just smiled. "I'm good. You?" She shrugged. "It's been busy. Exhausting week. My head hurts." "If you want, you could rest a bit." "Yeah, maybe." That night I couldn't sleep, because that morning I checked the email backup and found this. "William, I sent you some forms for the mortgage application. I signed them on both our names. You don't need to use Ethan's name. But if you handle the deed, that house legally becomes ours."
Mortgage deed? Which house? Our house?
The next morning I rose early. I logged into the Colorado Springs County Recorder's office, entered our home's reference number. What I saw froze my mind, not my heart. Our home had just been remortgaged a few days ago, under the guise of a renovation loan. The documents had my signature, mine in name, but the strokes, the slopes, the angles were not from my hand. Yes, Hannah wasn't just cheating on me. She was slowly but deliberately erasing me, legally. That night, I texted my friend, "Jared, is the lawyer still in Colorado?" Jared was an old friend, from military days, a person I'd trust with my eyes closed. Within half an hour, he replied, "Yes, Daniel, I'm sending you his number. What's up? Something bad?" Not yet, but it would be. The next day, I met Daniel out of town, in a safe place. We sat in a cafe. I opened my laptop and laid out every document, voice recording, message, video, over the table. He listened for 30 minutes without saying a word. Then he looked up and said, "Ethan, this isn't a divorce. This is an organized identity erasure and financial takeover. And you can't back down without a fight." That's why I was there. Not to lash out, but to speak, with evidence. Not to react, but to plan. That morning, over my coffee, I looked at the stack of paperwork in front of me. Each was a page of my life. Fake signature forms, screenshots of her deleted messages, motel entry logs, IP records. Daniel told me, "If you're going to keep your silence, it better be strategic, or it'll destroy you." And I had no intention of being destroyed. Our first move? Appeal the deed recorded against the house. We submitted an official petition to the county recorder's office. I took Daniel with me. We provided my ID, genuine signatures, and emails between Hannah and William. The clerk examined everything for a long time. Then he looked up and said, "This shows clear evidence of fraud. We'll suspend the transfer pending review." At that moment, I felt the quietest yet greatest victory. I just nodded, said nothing, but when I stepped outside, I had regained sole legal ownership of my home. Step 2. The bank account. I froze everything we shared. Under Daniel's guidance, I secretly opened a separate single-person account at another bank. I moved half my savings into encrypted crypto wallets, trackable, traceable, yet out of Hannah's reach. Later that same day, I informed my employer and moved my salary direct deposit. Aside from small change left inside, she now had access to nothing. That evening, Hannah returned home looking tired. She carried 2 coffees. She handed one to me. "I felt cold today. I feel like we've both changed. But maybe we can still fix things." She watched me, testing. "What do you know?" I just smiled. Of course. In time, things can get back on track. I didn't take the coffee, set it on the table. And meanwhile, inside my head, a single sentence repeated, "This is my last fake smile. My last performance. My last act. That night, Hannah went out to talk on the phone in the backyard with her headphones on. But my recording device was still on the table, and it was still capturing. At 11:02 p.m., it recorded. "Yes, William, I managed it. He doesn't know a thing. If we get the house, it's over. He'll never see it coming." I listened to it 3 times, then exported it to a USB stick, sent it to Daniel. The next day, Daniel called. "This is no longer just a divorce or infidelity, Ethan. This is a case of fraud, and your extensive documentation works in our favor. But there's one thing left: confrontation, a direct, undeniable face-to-face. That's when I decided. After 7 years, thousands of days, millions of words, I would speak, and for the last time. I installed a small camera in the living room, hidden inside a decorative lamp. 4K resolution, motion activated. I placed a small mic next to a photo frame on the table. Audio and video. Nothing should escape. This conversation wouldn't just end our marriage. It would launch a court case. I finally had something to say to Hannah. But this word was neither shouting nor accusation. It was a mirror. That evening, Hannah arrived. I was sitting in the living room, waiting. She closed the door, took off her shoes, saw me. "Ethan, you're sitting in the dark? Everything okay?" I lowered my head, then slowly sat up straight. "We need to talk." The first reaction in her eyes, panic, but she suppressed it. "Of course. Did something happen?" I reached into my pocket, took a sealed envelope off the table, and handed it to her. Inside were motel recordings, William's audio confession, the forged signatures, the new mortgage documents, hospital site messages, everything. I set it down in front of her. "This is the summary of my silence these past 7 weeks. She gasped, didn't open it. "What? What is this?" I looked into her eyes. "Everything. The end of our 7-year marriage. But for me, it's a beginning." Her first instinct was denial. "You followed me? What gives you the right? This is private information." I remained silent. That's a classic defense. When they realize they can't deny the truth, they call you the guilty one. But I held evidence. Did I shout? No. Did she deny it? Yes. But a signature, a voice, they never lie. One of the audio files began playing on the table speaker. "Yes, William, I handled it. He thinks he knows nothing. If we get the house, it's over." Her eyes froze. It was like her soul had been taken out. She sat silent for a moment, then lowered her head. "I didn't think you'd do this. But a lot's happened. You've been gone from me for a long time." There it was. "You've been gone." Classic. Cheater's Handbook, page 1. Project guilt onto the other. You were gone. But she was in that room, on that message, in William's voice. "I was there, Hannah, but it wasn't me you were seeing. And now, I'm not here either." Her voice rose. "What about you? Haven't you made mistakes? Are you just going to blame me?" I stayed calm, because this wasn't about blame. It was closure. "I made mistakes. I loved someone so much I mistook her for a different person. But now, there's no one left who can bear that love because you didn't love the person. You loved their silence." It was 9:42 p.m. The camera recorded it all. Date, time, our confrontation. Everything. The conversation ended. No more words were needed. The next morning, I sent all the files to Daniel. Divorce petition, fraud, lawsuit, mortgage, forgery documents, all finalized. That same week, William was officially indicted. Money transfers, joint mortgage requests, false joint accounts. My attorney said, "Ethan, you didn't just file a lawsuit, you painted a picture, and that picture is clear in the eyes of the judge." Hannah was still living in the house, but we no longer lived in the same home. When she stayed in the kitchen, I retreated to the laundry room. When I turned on the TV, she closed herself in her room. We lived in the same house, but silence built walls between us. I grew stronger each day with my documentation. She was collapsing under mine. The court date approached. Daniel had everything ready. There were 3 open cases against Hannah. Divorce for fraudulent concealment of assets. Financial fraud for forging signatures on the mortgage. Identity theft and damaging joint property. All based on the evidence I'd collected in silence. On court day, it was snowing. One of those cold, gray Colorado mornings. I wore my best suit, polished my shoes, secured my tie with my father's tie clip. I looked in the mirror. I saw no fear for the first time in a long time. When I entered the courtroom, I saw Hannah. Her back was straight, but her eyes were tired. Her lawyer was at her side. But as the evidence was presented, that firmness broke. As the envelope was opened, her gaze left mine. As the recording played, breaths were held. The deed documents, account statements, motel arrival times, IP logs, each hammered another nail. And those nails weren't building a coffin, they were constructing a closing box. They encapsulated my past and shut the lid. The judge reviewed everything, then turned to Hannah. "These documents show deliberate malice, planning, and deceit. I'm not only granting the divorce, I am imposing compensation. You will turn over the house to Ethan, assume the mortgage debts, and repay all the funds withdrawn from Ethan's accounts with interest." The courtroom fell silent. I said nothing, because I'd already won my war outside the courtroom. When I walked out, Daniel turned to me and said, "I don't like confrontation either, Ethan, but you turned silence into a weapon. A thorough plan like this, it rarely happens." That week, I began clearing out the house. Hannah was ordered to leave within 3 days. William was nowhere to be found. A warrant was issued. He now faces charges of tax evasion, false documents, fraud in 2 states. What did I do afterward? I found a new place. A small wooden cabin near the Montana border. Inside, just 2 chairs, a table, and a coffee maker. Yet for the first time, nothing was missing. The first morning I woke up, no one knocked on my door. My phone was silent, no messages, no noise. That silence felt like peace. One day I received a letter in the mail from an unknown sender. I opened it. "Hello, Ethan. You don't know me, but thanks to you, William was caught. He used the same method to take my sister's house and run. When the FBI checked your file, they matched it to ours. Thank you. Being able to help someone you'll never meet, that's something. I wish you well." I closed the letter, and I smiled, because, for the first time in my life, I did something, even for someone who knew nothing about it. Then one day I received one last text from Hannah. Just one sentence. "Ethan, I wish we had talked." I didn't respond, because by then, we already had. But she chose not to understand when I was silent. If you're listening to this story, here's what I want to tell you. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's a form of patience. And when patience breaks at the right moment, the silent person becomes the one who wins.